together. The poor are blessed, the weary rest. We will dance forever. The blinded see, the chained are free. The doubtful now believers, the outcast know, the orphan home. You are my Redeemer. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, you're making all things new. Return, the voiceless heard, the mourners now rejoicing. The mountains shake, the world awake, creation all composing. The sad untrue, the earth renewed, the song has found its singer. The darkness light, the dead alive, you are my Redeemer.
Kids, good morning. Today I'm going to do a brief kids message about mistakes. Raise your hand, adults can do it too, if you've ever made a mistake. Yeah, I know I personally have made some recently, even with people that I love the most. Now, there are a couple of things we can do when we make a mistake. We can just sit there and feel bad and do nothing and just tell ourselves what a bad person we are, or beat ourselves up, and just kind of sit in those yucky feelings. Or we can see it as a way that we can learn and grow. So today's affirmation is, I can grow and learn through all experience. So I'm going to show you this jar of sand. So now, sometimes we look at ourselves and we think this is who we are. And we can just sit in this stuff of sand, of all the wrong things we've ever done and all the mistakes we've ever made. Now inside here, if we look inside, we can find a beautiful crystal. Now this is our true inner self. And even though we make mistakes, that is not who we are, right? God sees us like this beautiful stone, this beautiful, precious stone. So let's practice seeing ourselves and others like God sees us, so we can all learn and grow through all experience.
Good morning, Peace Nicks. I'm really glad to be here with you today. This is my first time getting to do a sermon for one of our watch parties. I'm really excited. I'm going to read a passage of scripture that was not from Ruth chapter 3, the book of Ruth chapter 3. It is the book of Ruth chapter 3. And so it's 18 verses. It's not the longest chapter out there, but I'll read that for us this morning. It starts and says, Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, I need to seek some security for you, so that it may be well with you. Now here is our kinsman Boaz, with whose young women you have been working. See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Now wash and anoint yourself, and put on your best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Then go and uncover his thigh and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." She said to her, "All that you say, I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had instructed her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk and was in a contented mood, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came stealthily and uncovered his thighs and laid down. At midnight, the man was startled and turned over, and there, lying at his feet, was a woman. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are next of kin." He said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter, that this last instance of your loyalty is better than the first. You have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask, for all the assembly of my people know that you are a worthy woman. But now, though it is true that I am a near kinsman, there is another kinsman more closely related than I. Remain this night, and in the morning, if he will act as next of kin for you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to act as next of kin for you, then, as the Lord lives, I will act as next of kin for you. Lie down until the morning." So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could recognize another, for he said, "It must not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." Then he said, "Bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out." So she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her back. Then he went into town. She came to her mother-in-law, who said, "How did things go with you, my daughter?" Then she told her all the man had done for her, saying, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said, 'Do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" She replied, "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today." I'm excited for us to be in this series this summer called Rooted, Faith Ancestors, Their Stories and Ours, looking at the people who have come and gone before us in our faith lives, whether that's people personally in our faith lives, people that we know, have known, have been part of our biological families, or more generally our faith ancestors and our traditions, or in Christianity in general. And so I want to say, I told Aurelia this morning before we got started, I said, "I don't know if this actually makes any sense, this sermon." And that's a problem that I tend to have, is that I have an idea that makes sense in my head and I get it all out and I go, I don't know if that connects at all. So I hope that it does, very much so. And that if there is some disconnect there, that through the questions that you'll have later on, that you'll see those through lines and be able to feel connected to what's going on here. So I want to tell you that I'm pretty comfortable calling 2020 the pandemic year. I know that in so many ways it's not over yet. Many people's lives are still daily impacted by it, either because of loss of a loved one or loss of a job, a home, because of loss of a job, or loss of sense of self because of the changes that happened. A lot of things have happened to a lot of people. So when I say the pandemic year, I don't mean that it's not over or not still having an impact, not at all. What I mean is that it was a year of resetting for many. It was the year that the COVID-19 pandemic came into our lives and had some of the biggest effects. One of the things that happened during the pandemic year in our family is that we started watching baseball. I've been interested in the spirit of baseball for a very long time. Field of Dreams is one of my all-time favorite movies, and the book that it's based on, Shoeless Joe, is in my top 10 books of all time. It's phenomenal. Uh, I've just never really been into sports in general. I've loved the stories that sports produce. I love a good underdog story, a comeback story, heroes and villains. You know, that this team is the hero, the best team, the good team. This team is the bad team, the Yankees. But I've just never, for most of my life, cared to like sit and watch sports as they're happening, as they're being played. Except that to me, like I said, baseball always seemed to have a spirit to it that other sports didn't. I don't know if it's because uh, part of the point isn't just crashing bodies into each other. That never really appealed to me. But in the book Shoeless Joe, Kinsella, who is the author whose last name the character of the book bears, but the author Kinsella writes this rousing speech about how important baseball is that one of the characters gives. And for whatever reason, in the late spring and early summer of 2020, I decided to turn on a game and watch it. I've loved going to live baseball games for a long time, like going and being in a stadium, being around the people, and enjoying that. I've encountered that spirit of baseball there over and over and over again through the years, and so I figured I could probably catch some of that, over the airwaves watching one on TV. So I had a choice to make. If I was going to learn about baseball and a team, what team would it be? I landed on the St. Louis Cardinals for a couple of reasons. I like red, y'all. I just do. It's one of my two favorite colors. I know there's lots of teams that have reds. Like there's a team that's their name, different reasons. Uh, but the Cardinals red is just something different to me. The way that it stands out and its brightness is so wonderful to me. So there's that. I had two professors in college that they were from Missouri and the St. Louis area, and they were diehard St. Louis Cardinals fans. And so watching those professors watch the team win the 2011 World Series was really fun, and seeing how important that was to them, and how what that experience was like for them and their families and their baseball community. And the last reason that I chose, like, hey, I want to watch this team, follow this team, is that I remember this random small piece of information that my mom is at one of these watch parties, maybe, or might be in the chat and can potentially correct me here, but I think it's her father's father, or her grandfather played baseball for the farm league for the St. Louis Browns, way back in the day. Now, the Cardinals are not a direct descendant of the Browns. The Browns, the owner sold the team, they left town, they moved on, and the Cards were just a whole new team. But it was enough for me, and the rest is history. We're a Cards family now. We went to our first Cardinals game in Arlington just this last weekend. We had a blast, and so that's our team. We love them. Now, something that I know to be true is that we've all made decisions in our lives based on a lot less. For a team we love, a thing we enjoy, something that we do or participate in. It doesn't always take a lot for a sliver of a family connection to something to cause us to get closer to it or to want to step away from it. We don't always get to decide what those family connections look like, do we? They can inspire us or kind of make us sick. They can be the reason we become who we are because of the examples we saw set or didn't see. In this space at Peace of Christ, many of us are still grappling with the ancestors of our faith. I don't necessarily mean our grandparents or parents and so on and back. That is true for some of us. For many of us, though, it's the old white men of our Christian heritage. I certainly struggle with this. In my family, I was given wonderful models of faith from my mother, my father, and a grandfather, just to name a few. But it's when I look and think about people like Thomas Helwys, Ulrich Zwingli, who were early leaders and founders of the Baptist movement, the Anabaptist movement. When I think about John Calvin, Charles Spurgeon, I wonder, how the hell did we all get to this point? In the reading from Ruth, we get what is arguably one of the juiciest scenes of the story. She uncovers not his feet, but his thighs. Come on. A lot of modern scholarly work tells us that Ruth and Boaz had sex here, that this wasn't clean and chaste, although that's an important factor in the purity culture telling of that story. The thing that's important here, though, is why it's important to understand that, though, is that we can't look away from the fact that Naomi, quite frankly, Ruth's mother-in-law, seems to be grooming her here. Grooming her for their good, maybe. So she was preparing her every step of the way. Ruth is the carrot and their well-being is the stick. So I wonder, how would Jesus have been told this story? As a young Jewish boy, he's being told the story, the history of their faith. Ruth is listed in the lineage of Jesus from Nazareth, as told in the opening of the Gospel of Matthew, as is Rahab, who was a sex worker. 2 of the 4 women named in the line of Jesus. One is a sex worker, and the other is, by some accounts, someone who was sexually trafficked. The Ancestry.com of Jesus isn't exactly a pretty story at first glance, for a number of other reasons. However, both of these women had their own strengths and stories outside of what we know happened to them and what we happen to know them for. There's a hope that Jesus has given this image of these women who helped inspire his time on earth as an agent of change, who took the side of the oppressed, the marginalized, and sex workers time and again. I don't know the faith ancestors of everyone watching this morning. I know we have people who come from Catholic backgrounds, from mainline Protestants, from evangelicals, some extreme cult-like communities. Those ancestors include a line of popes whose contributions to history may include more harm than not. Men like Martin Luther, John Wesley, Joseph Smith, Billy Graham, and so many others. What have they given us, and what have they wrought? It's easy to look at all the hurt they gave and make sure it's known and understood to cast stones. I've done plenty of that. It gets more complicated when we work to see our faith ancestors as whole people. People who may have believed what they were doing, that they were doing the right and good things as asked by God. Now, to be sure, there are plenty of bad actors who knew what they were doing as they were doing it, that it was wrong and bad. That's not who I'm talking about. This is about the men and women who, I know I haven't named as many women as bad actors here, though they exist. They are not the overwhelming majority who have taken some of these actions that we're now grappling with. But there are men and women who believe in the tenets of faith that we believe in: love, hope, justice, equity, and equality. But because of the location and geography and history, may not have made the same choices we would have to carry those things out. So what does it look like to reconcile your shared faith with theirs? As with many things, I don't have an answer, just that I'm trying, and that I hope you will be too. I'm continually thankful for and inspired by this community precisely because we are unafraid of those things, being honest about where we've come from individually and as a whole. People ask me what affiliation Peace of Christ Community Church has, and I sometimes begrudgingly tell them that we're technically Baptist because of our 2 affiliations to the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship and the Alliance of Baptists, but we're not those kinds of Baptists. We come from them, though. From a group of Christians who felt it was theologically important enough to own another person, that they had to do their own thing. Thankfully, we're a ways away from that, but it's still part of our faith ancestry. We're unafraid of admitting that and other things from other traditions because we're able to say, those may be our ancestors, but that is not who we are. So we're going to transition now into times where in the homes you're in, you've got some questions to sit around and discuss. And so I want to ask that you all spend that time and just have a great rest of your morning.